Hey, how you doing? This is John, and this is Comic Book Team Up. And yes, we're on my channel this week. RJ?
Oh, yes, we were supposed to be on my channel this week, but we switched it over. So next week we can do a Comic Book Team Up on my channel because I have Adam Miller on next week, which is the 6th. His campaign for Iron Age Icons launches on the 8th. And he already announced this, so I'll announce it here for our audience. But one of my characters has been picked for the Iron Age Icons.
Oh, what is that? This is news to me.
It's Cardinal. He didn't want me to tell anybody until he announced it, and he put it in his trailer. So Cardinal, which is one of the characters from the upcoming the Valiant Heroes #1, and going to be in Thomas Valiant #2. She's been picked. He's already started the work for that card for Cardinal. So that's part of the Iron Age Icons, which will go live on Fun My Comic next Friday.
Oh, cool. Congratulations, Cardinal. That's cool. That is great.
Yeah, awesome. That is awesome.
Get some gravitas over here in Comic Book Team Up. We'll make our own awards. Nick,
yeah, really.
Here you go. You're gonna get the most handsome bastard award. How's that?
There you go. I like it. Bastard, particularly. Yeah, that's good.
So for those of you who don't know, we're here with Nick X. Nick X, who are you and why are you on Comic Book Channel?
Oh, who am I? I don't know.
Essential question. Why are we all here?
Yeah, why are we? No, an artist. I'm actually doing RJ's Crom the Destroyer. I'm doing chapters 2 and 3. And in a previous life, I was an animator. I owned and operated a computer animation studio. We had about 26 animators at its peak. I directed a half-hour Christmas special, computer animated Christmas special for some Canadian networks. I did a bunch of commercials and things like that. I brought in an investor, and then I got ousted. And about 8 months, I ran it for about 8 years. And about 8 months after me getting ousted, it tanked. He basically crashed it into the ground. All the talent, like I trained them, and they all went. They just dispersed across, everywhere, working on all sorts of different things, from Lord of the Rings to Superman to like all tons of stuff. I kind of
was that like a Schadenfreude thing, or was that like, oh, my baby? You know what I mean? Like, how did you feel when that tanked?
Numb.
Yeah,
when I started it, I was 17.
Wow.
So I raised like $250,000 to get it started, and it was basically my entire identity.
I think when I was 13, I drank a couple of beers and passed out in an alleyway. You're starting a business?
Yeah. One of the things about starting something so young too is it's just you don't have any perspective, so you don't really know that this has become everything to you. And then when you lose it,
I joke, but when I was 18, I was a part owner of a pizzeria. And
oh, nice,
gung ho, So I was really into the business. I was working 18-hour days. I was a stereotype, Italian New Yorker who made pizza, spin. And I didn't realize that the owner and his wife were buying a little bit of cocaine with the money every day. And I just was naively working, and we're gonna sell the business, and then because I was planning like, you're going to be 25, you'll sell the business, you'll go to college if you want, but you'll be able to pay cash for college. I thought I was doing all the right things, and next thing you know, I'm not even joking. Rocco and his brother Ricky showed up and took all the stuff out of because they weren't paying the bills, and I'm just like, but we're going to pay for my college. You know what I mean? So yeah, I understand the when you're a kid and you open up a business. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I learned everything what not to do. So
yeah, no, it's the same thing. When you're that young, because I brought in this investor because we needed to ramp up for production because we had gotten this network deal from a Canadian network, and we needed to fulfill this obligation. We needed to produce this animated, show, and so that meant we needed more capital for more computers and more everything. Right. And so I brought this guy in. I thought that he was like, on the up and up. And sure enough, he had his own intentions. And, I'm just being naive. I didn't know enough about the business. I started the studio because I was an image kid. And so I thought that's what I was supposed to do, is just start a studio. And that's really where the impetus came from, was I blame the image guys. I mean, I learned a tremendous amount, but
You mean Image Comics? Is that what you said?
Image Comics, yeah, Image Comics.
You
I mean, it
inspired
was
by
an
Image
animation studio instead of a comic studio because there was no way that anybody would ever finance. I couldn't raise that kind of money for doing a comic book studio or anything like
It's
that. But
still
animation,
I wouldn't give a 17-year-old kid a quarter.
I spoke well. That was really it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did you come across this guy RJ over here?
Well, he was doing his videos, and it was like, you're talking about before how you were sort of Zach's informant and how early that you had discovered Zach. It was exactly the same thing for me. I had seen one of his first videos. I think he only had maybe a handful of videos when I discovered him. And I was hooked. Like I was just watching everything that he was, putting out. And then RJ kind of came on the scene not too long after, just producing videos. And, there was a lot of things that were kind of going on in my own sort of like head about writing and about what was going on in media and in the world. And RJ was sort of putting a few things kind of in line for me.
Yes, saying it
just
more
like
eloquently than I could ever say it.
Yeah. And there was a couple of other guys that I was following as well. And so RJ just sort of kind of was put in that spot. I mean, Zach was more comics.
Right.
RJ's comics, but there was a lot more meat to it. Zach's maybe more entertaining, but RJ's more substantial. So I would be paying attention to this sort of stuff, and then one day I just thought, why don't I just reach out? What harm would it do? I really want to move away from marketing and doing all that stuff, which unfortunately I haven't been able to get away too far. I have a couple of not-for-profits and such that demand my time, and
what a coincidence, because I'm probably making a non-for-profit comic book. So
there you go. but yeah. So I wanted to get out of that. I wanted to get out of the marketing stuff. I mean, I'd been doing it for way too long. Because after the studio, I got when I got the boot, I was kind of rudderless.
Yeah,
I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know.
Closed, I'm like, well, what do I do? This was supposed to pay for college for me. You know what I mean? I'm 24 years old now. My goal was to,
I was 26, and like I said, I started when I was like 17 around there.
Yeah.
And it was my identity. It was everything. And when I lost it, I just fell into a huge depression, and I fell into design and marketing and things like that because it was just so easy compared to doing anything involved in entertainment. I mean, when you're trying to write a script that's supposed to entertain people, whether that's animation or comics, that's a tall order. But when you're trying to do a script or trying to put together a commercial for some corporate nonsense, nobody can tell the difference whether or not it's any good. It's pretty easy stuff. It's simple
a low
to do.
Bar. Have you seen commercials?
Oh, totally low bar. Yeah.
It's funny that you said that when I moved to Albuquerque when my pizzeria shut down, and I was like, I got to go to college now. I'm 25 now.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a pizzeria opening, and I was like, oh wow, pizzeria is just opening. maybe I'll apply for a job there. You know what I mean? I know how to do this.
Yeah.
So I walked in, and the guy was like, oh, I'm literally opening. I don't know how busy I'm going to be, but I'll, give me your phone number. And I was like, I don't even have a phone number yet. I'm living in the dorm. And then I just went to school, and I forgot. About 5 years later, I was like, how's that pizzeria doing? And I walked down it, and I'm not even joking. He was closing up the place. So I went there the opening day, and I went to and I remember the opening day, he was like, nobody's going to tell me what to do. I'm my own boss. And then when I went in there closing day, he goes, enough worrying about the bills. I'm going to go work for somebody else, and he's going to pay, And I was like, oh man, the 2 stages of opening your own business. Greatest day of my life. And then it's closing down. I'm just going to go let somebody else be the boss, and I'll just go in and get a paycheck.
At least you didn't see the in-between part where he was crying every day.
Oh, I take it back. I did go in, and I got a meatball parm hero with lettuce and pickles. And I'm like, this is why a pizzeria is closing? Albuquerque meatball parm with lettuce and pickles. So now that we chased away RJ.
Yeah.
I'm just having fun listening to this.
I remember, again, like you saying, I was listening to your boy Zach, and your boy Zach played snippets of RJ's video when you talked about Sana Amanat. And I said, I actually got like a little scared. I was like, oh my God, this vast conspiracy is overwhelming even the comic book world. And I started listening to RJ, and I was hooked. So, and then I was in his chats when he was going live, and then I just said, "Hey, RJ, he said something about comic book collection." So I got 55,000 comic books, and then I sent you a picture, and then whatever. I became
Fast
RJ.
friends.
Yeah, fast friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always say I always thought I had a large comic book collection until I met John.
I still do. Like it's not a competition. Who was I just talking to? They were telling me that they got 3,500 comics. They're like, that's nothing. Still 3,500 comic books. You know what I mean? Like, we're not all poor because Jeff Bezos is rich. So
RJ, so you've got me here. We do you ever wonder about what I'm doing over here, or what sort of guy you hired or anything like that?
not until I saw you.
Actually, the little snippets that I get from the emails back and forth tell me you're a pretty down to earth fella. So, I just let you do your own thing because you do beautiful work. I mean, of all the artists, I am so blessed. I have to say this over and over again that I got my artists because they came to me. And my artists have all come to me and said, I want to work with you. And even some that haven't gotten to work with me that just went to do other things. But so many just great artists coming to me and said, I want to do something with you. And I never thought that my channel would actually get people that excited about, or at the very least interested in what I had to say, that I could get the level of artists that Nick and Jim O'Reilly and Renzo come to me and ask if they could do a comic book with me. So, I'm amazed at your art, Nick.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. No, I mean, well, it's the channel, when you're talking about the true, the good, the beautiful, I mean, that's the thing that's going to attract everybody ultimately. I mean, at first, you might be able to get people interested in the drama. Obviously, John, you're talking about that with John Delarose. By the way, thanks for allowing me to follow Delarose. That's really great. Have Delarose come in and then I come in after the fact and I have to follow that act. Come on, man. He's big. He's a huge guy, and here I am, like, but yeah. Like the drama and stuff it gets attention, but I really do think that the thing that is the longest lasting is when you talk about the true, the good, the beautiful, when you're, instead of degenerative, that you're generative. And that was one of the things that really attracted me to your channel, RJ. Yeah.
That's one of the things that I really, quite honestly, I've been trying over the last year to be more positive, and it just hit me almost over the last week. I honestly said to myself, you know what? I'm done with all this worrying about the future and people listening to these videos where they're doom and gloom, and even people on our side doom and gloom about this is coming or that is coming. Honestly, live a good and virtuous life, and nothing's going to phase you. Really.
Yeah. What comes, right? The only thing you have is the choices that are in front of you. And
I for the past week, it's going to sound weird, but the doom and gloom has been wearing me down, to the point where, like, I feel like I'm putting on a mask before the camera goes on to try to be cheerful, but
yeah. No, I feel you. I feel you. Like, I tune in every now and then to some of the stuff that's going on. And at a certain point, like it's like 2 hours, 3 hours, 4-hour live streams of this stuff. And you're just like, even at double speed, I'm like, okay, I got to dip out. I've got to put something else on. I got to put on some concerto or something like that, because this is really just getting under my skin. Find anything else, like even like old movies or stuff that I like to watch, or that I know I can depend on in terms of putting me in a certain mood, or reminding me of like what matters and what I care about,
It's funny you should mention that, Nick, because every once in a while I watch on YouTube, it's like movies that are coming out, so trailers for movies. And I watched one, I think it was just yesterday, and it was like 10 movies that are going to be coming out this year. And I watched it and I said to myself, you know what? Most of these are remakes of things that I would rather go back and watch the original for than go to the movies and spend all my money and all my time for something I'm just going to roll the dice on. Just go back and watch the original. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm watching, like last week I watched Hang 'em High, and I think it was Fistful of Dollars, and getting into Westerns, and I want to watch some of my old DVDs for John Wayne and stuff like that, because that is the inspiration of great storytelling that I think inspired so many of the the great comic stories that I read when I was growing up. So that's what I'm going back to.
It's funny.
Yeah.
On Sundays, I do Sunday comics, and I'm taking some of the oldest and key comics from my collection, and that's turning into a blast. I'm getting like a crowd of people talking. You know, we just did the first appearance of the Doom Patrol, and like we compared the first Justice League to the first Fantastic Four. And you know what? I don't find myself missing new comics at all. You know, I went into a new comic book store just the other day, and I'm looking because they were right over here. And I bought some comics just because I saw this old timer looking at me desperately, like, are you going to buy something? You know, so I bought that Secret Wars Battle World, you know, just because the art looked good. But I just find myself like, I don't care anymore. Oh, here we are. Yeah, I don't care anymore about new movies, new comics. You know, people like, you going to go see the new Dune movie? I'm like, no. Was this the 4th remake of Dune? You know,
you can watch the 1980s version on YouTube for free. They have the extended version there.
The John Lynch version with another 2 hours of people whispering to each other. Yeah, you know, I don't know. I RJ, you never changed for the good. I mean, your channel's still refreshing the same. You know, and Nick and I have been talking a lot lately. I feel like if I have a thought that I've been holding back saying for a long time, but I almost feel like Comicsgate is now like Postgate. You know, it's kind of over. We're entered a new era. Everybody's just fighting with each other, and I feel like I forget what comic I read, but they said the end of an era is when. Oh no, it was Arthur Miller said an era is over when all the idols have been exhausted, and I'm getting that feeling right now. Like 2015 was the end of an era, and I'm thinking like 2014.
Well, this is what I was saying before. I don't remember. Maybe I was on Cooper's channel. I don't remember. But you know, this goes back to the idea of that wrestling term. You know, WWE, WWF, whatever, of the cheap heat, right? And you know, you can farm drama, and yeah, you'll get the clicks, and you'll get the hits, and you'll get the eyeballs, and all that. But the cheap heat, it can't last. It like people just get exhausted, they get tired of it, and you know they end up like looking for anything else really. There's only so much of that. It doesn't have longevity, and that's one of the things that why I comment on RJ's channel the way I do is that you know when you're talking about the true, the good, the beautiful, when you can be generative, whether that's on a simple YouTube channel or whether that's in your stories that you're writing for your comic book, when you can be that way, that's the thing that gets you back to want to read the next one and the next one. And then because it's generating, it's building, but it's not tearing down constantly.
Right.
And that's what a lot of this drama is doing, is just basically, you know, tearing everything down. You get tired of it.
Yeah. You know, that, and I don't have 6 hours to listen to a stream. You know, I got to go to work in the morning, you know.
Well, I sit here and draw, so I've got to have something going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. And RJ's got to go out there and dig a new outhouse every couple of days, and you know, you got to plant the sheep or whatever those farmers do. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I do think we're turning a corner. I don't want to sound all doom and gloom because I'll turn on the computer, it goes to my home screen page of Yahoo News. I'm seeing stuff on Yahoo News that I literally haven't seen in like 18 years. Like, oh my God, I actually agree with this article for once. You know, oh my God, you know, they're critical of this. You know, I don't want to get into politics, but I do think something has happened. And I do think the ground zero of this change was Elon Musk buying Twitter.
Could be. I mean, I don't know about Elon, but you know, there a lot of this stuff is cyclical. And one of the things that, you know, getting back to the idea of the cheap heat again, you know, if the pendulum, as they say, is swinging back the other way, whatever that means, that means that there isn't going to be as much, let's say, for drama to push up against. If everybody starts to come in line again with what's reasonable or what's true, good, and beautiful, at least to some extent, then what are the drama farmers going to talk about? You know, what are you know, what are they really going to be on about? They about what are they going to be? What are they going to talk about? Like nothing.
But I just know that we got three of us here. So which one of us is true? Which one of us is good? And which one of us is
I think you're the beautiful John. Yeah, we'll call John the beautiful.
yeah, that is without a doubt. I would fight it. And I think RJ's true. And so that leaves you good. All right, Nick.
Oh, if you guys only knew. But yeah, no, it like there's what is there to talk about when there isn't that kind of antagonism that's constantly like at your heels, right? And that means that Comicsgate or whatever has to pivot. That's ultimately what it means. It's a marketing term. Like when the heat is gone, you have to pivot. And I don't know if Comicsgate is mature enough to know how to pivot, because there's a whole lot of different things that have to happen in order for a pivot to actually take. You could sit there and wish it all you like, but if the pendulum really is swinging back, which it seems like that sometimes, but I'm never really too certain about that.
Yeah, I don't want to make a definite. Yeah, this is a prediction.
Yeah. But
I'm
if it does,
I'm not smart.
If it does in any meaningful way, then that means that there's really nothing else to talk about. Like you're either going to have to find different drama, or you're going to have to pivot. And the pivot, ideally, because anytime, one of the things to think about when you're starting a channel or starting a new comic or whatever, I mean, even think about Marvel's history and how Marvel pivoted, how Marvel was different than DC. And this was the thing, like they were the underdog that was doing things differently,
right?
And you have to if you're new. What's that?
I said we take that for granted now, but that's one of the things I was trying to point out when I showed Justice League #1 versus Fantastic Four #1,
mm-hmm.
how different they were. But I'm sorry,
how different.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, if you're a newcomer, an upstart, you have to be an upstart to some degree. You have to. You don't necessarily have to, step, both feet into controversy, but you have to at least have something to say, and whatever it is that you're going to say has to evoke, provoke, whatever. And so if you're starting a new YouTube channel or whatever, if you're a marketing firm and you're trying to get a new company going and you're trying to push whatever product or whatever service it is that's out there, the first thing you have to do is figure out how it's different. And then you have to almost suggest that your competitors aren't any good because they don't have what you have. Well, this is all the same. It's the same thing. It's no different than having a YouTube channel. And at a certain point, if you've got a good marketing firm that is helping your startup business kind of appear as though you're the young upstart company, if you have a good firm, that means that they've actually planned 5-10 years ahead. And that plan 5-10 years from now is a plan for how your little upstart company is going to pivot. It's actually in the plan.
Yeah.
It's in the plan that you're going to start off as an upstart, that you're going to, ruffle feathers, that you're going to get into, and depending on the comfort levels of the executives and so on, depends on how much controversy that they're willing to actually go into. The marketing firm is willing to go almost as far as, they're fairly evil, but they're willing to step into it, as much as the client is, because what does the marketing firm care? It's the client and their investors and shareholders that, is on the line. It's really not the marketing firm. The marketing firm just gets paid their service and their fees and whatever.
Like
but
a mercenary.
Like I said, when you hire a marketing firm and it's a good marketing firm, good, how about effective? I don't know if I want to say good in terms of any moral question, but they are giving you a 5-year or 10-year plan. And that plan is, how do you pivot? And that's why I wonder about Comicsgate. Do they have the maturity to pivot? Do they, do we have creators that are producing stories and art? Pause for dramatic effect. Story and art that is good enough that they could pivot into continuing to sell and continuing this brand, or continuing their stories.
I ask myself, and whenever I have a person, well, you guys are working on a comic, a crowdfunded comic now. Does this whole format have legs? You know what I mean? Because I got scripts that'll last me the rest of my life. You know what I mean? But is this going to last? You know, I don't have any illusions of getting into comic book stores. I would love to get into comic book stores. Is this, you know, you talked about top of the funnel problem. You know, we are comic book fans are a microcosm of humans, and then the humans who wake up and turn on a computer and look and go to a comic book site to buy a comic book are a microcosm of people who like comic books. You know what I mean? So are we choking ourselves on how
well, you know, there's
I worry about stuff like that.
So yeah, you know, there's two things to worry. I mean, there's two things there, right? And you know, there's sort of a difference in degree and a difference in kind.
Do some OnlyFans. Which one of us? Which one of us would make the most successful? Well, I guess I am the most beautiful. So
yeah, you're the beautiful, John.
I could only imagine the beard RJ has. I can only
imagine. I have no beard. I never have. I cannot. It's too itchy to me.
I picture this John the Baptist beard, like it becomes your clothes.
But there's two things to think about there. One is, you know, Comicsgate as a movement, or even, you know, the what's it called, the Iron Age and all that, like all these various movements and so on, which is to say, you know, the plurality of whatever is going on. So the industry or any of these, like, you know, sub industries or what have you. That's one way to look at it. And you could be worried about that because obviously, you know, comics as a whole has gone down. People talk about the big two, basically, if the big two are doing well, et cetera, et cetera. We know all these arguments that have been put forward. That is something to worry about. But the other thing to worry about, as I said, there's two things, is your book, your characters, your publishing company.
Right.
You see, you talked about top of funnel, and if you remember, last time Crom was, you know, talking about marketing and such, we not only talked about top of funnel, but we also talked about lifetime value. Lifetime value is on the other end of the funnel. Lifetime value is about whether or not how many people you carry over into your next book.
Right.
How well you take care of your fandom. How excited you can get your fandom every day, every week, every month. Are you thinking and planning of those things as you're trying to build your publishing company? Right. And that lifetime value is really about capturing the top of the funnel, but then figuring out how many people you can pull in, not only to buy the first book, but carry into the next book, which means that now you have a business instead of just a crowdfunding, you know, prayer, as it were.
Yeah.
Right. And so these are the things that you need to be thinking about. Like, do you have, let's say, like a website? Do you have a digital strategy? Do you have ways of getting people excited? You know, when you're doing your tweets, when you're doing your posts, when you're doing your videos, are you? And this is one of the things that Eric July is trying to do. Right? You look at, he has his Rippaverse YouTube channel, and on there he talks about, you know, his characters, the Rippaverse, and so on. Whether or not he's effective is a whole other question, but he's at least trying to do it to the level of which I'm mentioning here.
Yeah.
You know,
and he just announced today that he's doing like a fulfillment service or a publishing house, Rippersend.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how that's something I asked him about when he was on, and he was very coy about it. And I could tell by the way he smiled that it was already something. I find that to be a positive step. You know, like I could go to him and have him do, you know, I could concentrate on hiring Nick, do the art. I could do the story. We get a comic book, and then he does the publishing, sends it off and everything. I think that's a good step in the direction as far as making it a viable business, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But like I said, if you're thinking, if you've got scripts that'll last you for a lifetime, then, you know, really the thing that's left for you to think about, I mean, other than obviously executing on the actual, you know, publishing itself, is how you're going to get your fans excited. And that was one of the things that Stan Lee was really good at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, he was able to keep you excited. And, you know, one of the big challenges that us crowdfunders have is that because we don't have the same resources, we're not producing books at the same rate. And moreover, you know, it's not like all of our characters are in a shared universe. So it isn't as though characters are rubbing elbows with each other and having crossovers or, you know, doing any sort of like cameos or anything like that. That kind of stuff isn't happening, you know, much, if at all. you know, in the independent sphere. So a lot of people are basically their own islands, and they are trying to keep whatever customers they have, that
Yeah,
lifetime value that I'm talking about, you
I
know.
think of that too. You know what I mean? Like I got my little corner. I'm trying to convert as many of my subscribers into happy customers as possible, you know, and avoid the drama. And, you know, so what am I really fractionalizing my fan base? If I may use the word fan base for a guy who hasn't made a comic book yet, but you know what I'm talking about, you know. Yeah,
well,
he
you know,
says,
another way to look at it is attention, right? You know, we know that the drama is getting a lot of attention.
and a lot of money.
Stan Lee was able to get a lot of attention with the product, with the characters, with the story. So where is your, how do I say, what is your discipline? Is it a shock jock? Are you you know, putting in the time and the effort and the practice in how to be a good YouTuber and entertain and all these things in order to drum up the drama and really get involved with, like, you know, Twitter, whatever nonsense and everything else? Is that where you're putting your effort, your time, your energy, your discipline? Is that the craft that you're really focused on? Or are you focused on the craft of entertaining people and keeping their attention in your books, in your, you know, in your characters, in the world that you're building? Where are you focusing your time, your energy, and your craft, your discipline?
He said to drum up excitement, get a Thomas Valiant versus the Patriarch crossover. That wouldn't be exciting because the Patriarch would just beat the crap out of Thomas Valiant on the second page. And then who else would read it? You know, it would be like a couple of extra issues of him, what, like fixing his uniform, you know.
That's fighting words.
Yeah. What? So, you know.
Don't let me monopolize. Go ahead. Keep talking.
Yeah, I'm just making a joke at RJ's expense. I usually blame the fans too. Part of me was a little disappointed when I saw, oh my God, this is what's making money. I should use that as a cover. A little bit of background for MSK. First off, I was on his channel, Master Swag. Good channel. Check him out. He invited me over and we just had a pure comic book talk. It was awesome. When RJ approached me about doing a cross-channel show, I was like, oh, it's like a comic book team up, and that became the natural. So I asked Renzo to draw that for us. So I try to show that off as much as possible. I think that is just awesome. And no, there are no plans for a Thomas Valiant Patriarch crossover yet. Let me get my comic book out before my characters become more popular than RJ's characters. What do you think, RJ? Sometime down the line?
I don't know. I got a lot of stories I got to tell, John.
Right.
That's the one thing I'm struggling with right now is I'm trying to get Valiant Heroes #1 out, and having problems with the printer. And it's one of the things that you never really think about, but you know, I had several different formats going on for the Valiant Heroes, and it's made publishing the thing actually much more difficult because I have to present 4 different basic publishing formats for the publisher for the 4 different books that we're doing for the Valiant Heroes. But I got so many stories right now that I want to tell. Is like, get this done. That's my incentive to actually get this book out. Besides the fact that people are waiting on it, is to get it out as quickly as possible because I got more stories that I want to tell.
Yeah, I've been writing scripts for years, and I only thought about actually being able to do this once I saw you, RJ, making your own comics. I was like, wow, this could happen. I saw Zach doing it, but you know, Zach was like, he had lightning in a bottle as far as you know, the timing and everything like that. You know, John Malin was just kicked off the X-Men. He picked them up. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I could copy that lightning. And then I saw RJ, and I saw Renzo's artwork, and I was like, wow, this is doable. This, you know. So I polished off some scripts, wrote, and now I'm seeing actually how difficult it is to make a comic, you know, to coordinate different people and hire this artist who dropped out. Another guy's, I'm not hearing back anymore. Another, you know, I blame a lot of myself. Like, I'm making a picture in my brain and this guy's not doing the picture in my brain. And I realized he's doing the picture that I actually said in the words, but not, you know what I mean? So I had a lot of fumbling, but I think the second issue is going to be more smoothly as far as behind the scenes. You guys don't even know the behind the scenes trouble that I've been going through. And then I hired some crazy graphic arts guy to help me out and smooth some patches.
I can remember, John, early days for me. I am aware of how hard it is because I took creative writing in, I think it was like grade 12 or something like that. And we had to put together a newspaper, and I was the editor. And oh my good heavens, was that like wrangling cats, trying to get, teenagers to submit things and edit them and everything else. And when I started to do my books, it was like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah. First off, the stereotype that artists are individuals for the most part. So that's true, and I like it that way. Renzo has been nothing but a pleasure to work with. Renzo, oh my God, what a pleasure! My colorist Daniel is great. All the problems I blame it on myself. A little bit of naivety and didn't realize. When you're a little kid, you bite into something, you don't realize how much when you start to choke. I kind of did that, but it's so much fun. I really am enjoying it, and I can't wait to share my comic with everybody. It's gonna be so much fun, and it's getting closer. Right, Nick. Some crazy person is building a campaign page as we speak.
That's what he tells you.
But I'm being held up because I have an artist that's doing a variant cover, and he was just hospitalized. So we'll see.
Dear.
Yeah, I don't want to launch with a variant cover and not have the variant cover for you guys to check out. You know what I mean? That would just be self-sabotage. So that's what's holding us up right now. Can't
For sure.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's one of the things I got to say. Well, while Nick is working here, I was just going to say that that's one of the things that I think this pivot that we were talking about earlier needs to encompass is the positive nature of the people that I work with, and that would include you, John, and Renzo, definitely, and like Nick.
Earth.
And it's just to have people that are excited to actually do the things that you ask them to do, and because you're looking for people who can translate that excitement to the audience before the book actually comes out. And if you have people that are making your book of that quality, then that gives you a leg up on everybody else, especially what's going on with mainstream. Obviously, it's just because excitement is something that you don't see that. I'm watching videos and watching people look at new entertainment and things like that. There is no excitement there. It's like, I'm going to consume this thing and I consumed it and here's my thoughts. There's no excitement.
Absolutely.
That's what needs to be there.
That because again, RJ articulates my thoughts better than I realize until he says. I watch comic book YouTube and I'm like, well, where's the excitement? Where's the comic book everybody's talking about? Like, I don't know about you guys, but I saw Fiendish by Rini, and I was blown away. Like, I'm not even kidding. I stood up. I was like, this is so good. Like, I was standing up as I was reading it. I'm like, this in a healthy industry, this would be an Eisner Award-winning comic book, and now people are attacking her for, I don't know, whatever reasons. She's nothing but a pleasure. Like, and then Renzo, I sometimes wonder if he's kidding. He's so positive and happy. I said to him, I feel bad. I'm like, oh, Renzo.
That's your New York cynicism there.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, yes. I'll send Renzo. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, that's great. Oh my God, this is gonna be so good. So this is gonna turn up like in issue 3. Okay, and then he sends within like 2 days later, he's got the corrections. I'm like, oh my God. I was ready for him to get mad at me and yell, you changing? I'll charge you extra. No, he's the happiest guy in the world. I'm happy. And then I got this computer graphic guy that won't even smile when he's on camera.
No. So overrated.
Darkheads, did I turn you on to Fiendish? If so, let me know, because that would be great. Oh, here we go. We got some Catwoman by I do. There's a picture that I love that Nick drew, the devil woman with the horns, like she's like lording over the captive, the king.
That's from the first pages of chapter 2 of Crown the Destroyer.
That is, I love that.
This one here.
I think it's in there someplace. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll embiggen you. That is awesome. Tell me that doesn't excite you for a comic book.
That character, honestly, because Jim came up with the character sketch for this character here, and he was like, let's use this, and I said, okay, we're going to incorporate this because into the book. And when I gave Nick chapter 2 to do, where she basically comes into her own into the story, she does appear at the end of
Yeah.
chapter 1, but Nick just took it to a different level than Jim has, because Jim hasn't gotten to the end of chapter 1 where he actually was going to draw her. So it's so funny to see this character that one beautiful artist has come up with, but hasn't had a chance to work on yet, and a second beautiful artist has already started to give his own take on it. And there's
awesome.
Positive feedback all over my Twitter, anyways, about this character. And
what's her name?
She doesn't. She's just she doesn't have a name right at the moment,
Okay.
just because of the fact that a lot of my characters are. I always try to write in a way it's like a man with no name Western. Names are not that important,
Okay.
but she's just the.
Oh wow, I've never seen this page before.
This is part of I think probably like page 6, chapter 2.
Look, would you say you're inspired by John Buscema?
You think?
Yeah, look at that. Just as I asked that question, you scrolled on that face, and I realized I asked an obvious question. Look at that.
Yeah.
Were you a little kid reading Savage Sword of Conan without your mom finding out?
Yeah, I mean, my mom didn't. I mean, I had quintessential boomer parents. You know, I was a Gen Xer, so I wandered the forest and did my own thing, and no one really cared. No one noticed I was gone, you know, missing or anything like that. So whatever I was reading or whatever I was watching on television as well was the same thing.
Yeah, I was allowed to read all comics except for the magazine size because they were on the same shelf with the Penthouse and Hustlers and stuff. So I always looked at Savage Sword of Conan, and you know, it became Sour Grapes. I'm not going to read this, you know. So maybe that's the equation of Sword and Sorcery. Look at that. How long does it take you to draw that panel?
Okay, first of all, you should know that I'm kind of new to this. So, you know, as I said, like I ran an animation studio. I went to school, 1 year of school for animation. So it's a different way of drawing and a different way of thinking. And I'm trying to bring some of that into comics, the strong posing, the characters that have facial features and features that kind of convey emotion and acting and performance and these sort of things. I do a lot of life drawing of like stage acting.
Would you say that, like, because RJ always says that he tries to model the women from like the silent era. Would you say, like, you know how they overemphasized during the silent films? Would you say that
this is why I, you know, when so in the mornings, and I'm going to start doing this on my channel, actually, is doing some life drawing, like morning warm-ups and stuff like that on my YouTube channel. What I do is I typically take stage acting. So I've went out and got like a ton of reference photos on stage acting and so on. And I specifically picked that because, you know, if you know that there's a scene in Hamlet or something like that, you kind of know the context. And the performer is giving you everything. And the photographer, hopefully they've taken a decent photograph of the moment. And you're really just trying to capture the emotions and the feelings. It's not about like just getting the anatomy correct anymore.
right?
You know what I mean? And so you ask, you know, this is a long-winded way of answering a couple questions. Like the first question you ask is, how long does it take? Well, I draw this panel, this character, this figure, probably 5, 6, 7 times. Like, it is not the kind of thing where I just like put it down and it's done. Right. It's
a couple of minutes.
Pardon me?
I said a couple of minutes. You bang that out. Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. Well, you know what? On the seventh go, yeah, on the seventh go, and all you have to do is like look up, like if you look at Norman Rockwell for a second here, let's go images.
Well, what you were saying about it's not just getting anatomy. I was, what the hell comic was I just talking about? That's gonna drive me nuts. But I was showing a comic book. I said, oh yeah, the Doom Patrol, the first appearance of the Doom Patrol, and poor Bruno Premius. I'm not trying to slag on him, but every illustration is perfect. But when you look at it as far as sequential art, you don't see any excitement, you don't see any movement, you don't see any energy. So like it's almost like a movie made up of snapshots. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things like Buscema and Kirby. I think whether you could argue with Kirby's anatomy, you could argue with like, are these women attractive, are these men handsome, but you cannot argue with the action of a Kirby panel.
No,
it's almost like it's not only is it a moving image captured, but it's like a dynamic explosion captured in a frame. That it's almost like bursting out of the panel, and I think, unfortunately, like the early Silver Age DC, I think was missing that.
I think a lot of what is coming out right now from indie comics is missing that as well. Quite honestly, you're absolutely right, because I think it was Stan Lee who actually, when he first began, started his artists by taking them and making them watch silent films. And if you look at Will Eisner, people like that, he has an entire book on expressive anatomy. And
Yes.
These are the kinds of things that you need to have, or else you're just going to have everybody posing, which is what you get right now in mainstream comics, is just panel after panel of people posing in supposedly cool ways, but you get no sequential art because you can't fill in the gaps of the gutters with the movement from one panel to another, because it's not there. There's no movement. And this is exactly, the amazing work that Nick is doing is expressive anatomy.
Look what Zach that's saying. He goes, what are these pictures? Where's the two people standing around with large text balloons? RJ, like I said, RJ, when RJ made a comic, and then you would talk about the Will Eisner book, I went out and bought a copy of that Will Eisner book. I guess I never told you, but and I really took it to heart. Like, one of the things that Eisner said is each panel is a snippet in time. So it's like a word balloon should be like an expression or a statement, and then maybe and then a reaction to that statement, and then if you have anything else to say, move to the next panel. So I took that to heart, and a few people who read my script, they appreciated that each panel didn't have huge word balloons. So I first off, I would hate to cover up Renzo's art, but comic books aren't supposed to be like that. Chris Claremont was probably the only person who could get away with it. And unfortunately, we're not Chris Claremont. Modern comics isn't Chris Claremont. That his semi-purple prose writing, it was fun and it was different at the time. But comics.
That's one of the things I agree. One of the things I just read, I got Cardoth, that indie comic. Is that the name of the? Is it Cordoth? I can't remember. But anyway,
Cordrath.
Yes. And I opened it up and I wanted action. And the first 3 pages are basically exposition with large text blocks everywhere. And then you have one battle and then a whole bunch of talking. And, it's beautiful art, I have to say, but it's not, the sequential art I'm looking for. If I want a text crawl, I'll go watch Star Wars.
To give you an idea, John, a page like this one here,
that had to have taken you like a couple of minutes to draw that.
Over 50 hours.
50 hours.
Yes. Yeah. And you know how I know that? Because the software that I use to draw the pencils, now usually I would print these out and I would ink them myself, like on board, right? So I just find digital pencils. I can do both. Like, I obviously started off with traditional, but digital just gives you a whole set of tools and allows you to experiment. And, but a page like this, it takes 50 hours. And the reason why I know that is because Clip Studio, around this time that I was doing this page, came out with an update. in Clip Studio's update was that it actually timed how long you were in the app working on any particular document for. And if you walked away for 2 minutes, it would stop the timer.
Oh, wow.
So I knew approximately, like, a very accurate sort of, and it was over, this page here took over 50 hours.
Wow.
Now, I know that the indie comics can't afford the page rates of how long I put the effort that I put into this.
RJ,
So I have
just bill him. He's good.
Yeah, totally. RJ's filthy rich. But that's not really, like, you know, I think
I'll trade you sheep. Got a truckload of sheep coming over to your island.
Pay you in sheep. But yeah, like it takes a long time because you care.
This is glorious. Oh wow, I really like the shading here on that. I can't wait to see that in color. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Where do they get coffee?
I always get the question on my channel, where's the volcano? And Nick has shown the volcano in these pages.
This is outstanding. I can't wait for, I mean, I couldn't wait for, just because I can't wait for RJ's comics, but this is excellent. Oh my God. So RJ, how do you feel when you see this?
This is amazing. I think that, quite honestly, when we finally get this book out, I don't know when it's going to be, but when we get it out, I picture in my head the fact that someone will say, this is the best, I don't know, at the very least, the best Conan comic that's not a Conan comic. You know what I mean? The entire year, of the entire year. I would say the sword and sorcery fantasy will be blown away by this book. And in whenever we get it out.
Michael's happy that there's a volcano. Yeah, I agree with Marcus said. That's actually, I think that's a great compliment, that it doesn't even need color.
That's why we have the black and white version, as well as the black and white version is the Savage Sword of Conan format, and it's coming out in magazine format, and we have the colored graphic novel version as well.
Oh wow! Look at this. This is great. Now, Nick, at one point do you say, I'm done tinkering with this? This is what I want.
You hit a wall. I usually, what's funny, I say I'm done, and then I come back. Like sometimes I won't send RJ a bunch of pages. Like, I'll just keep a bunch of pages back, and then I'll give him 4 or 5 pages or 6 pages or whatever, because even though, like, let's say page 1, I've quote, I'm done, I'll move on to the next page, and I'll just come back to a page because I know there's so many things that I want to fix. So one of the things that go ahead.
When does the woman come in and save everybody?
Everybody gets a piece of humble pie in this book. Let me put it that way.
Oh wow! Okay, you got a couple pages lettered already.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Nick likes to stick in some lettering, temporary lettering, to make sure that his pencils will jive with what I have written.
Yeah. I plan for that. Like, I lay everything out. Everything
you have to, I imagine, right? You got to plan where the dialogue is going to go, right?
That's how I think about it anyway. Yeah, for sure.
I don't want to call anybody up, but I just read an indie comic, and while I appreciate the person's enthusiasm and love of the character, it was like rookie mistakes in that, and no, I'm not talking about Eric July, but another person. They've been on my channel. I like them, but I read 9 issues of their comic, and I realized, where is it? They don't even tell me the name of the town. They get attacked by flying skeletal monsters, almost like skeletal harpies. They defeat that. They go home, take a shower, and then they go to a bar, and everybody's just playing pool. And it just pulled me out of the I don't know about you guys over there in this crazy little land called Canada that doesn't really exist, but if there was skeletal harpies raining from the sky, would the bars even be open? It really, and I look at storytelling like that. And I'm trying to make sure that in my comic book, you're not confused.
While I agree, John, I agree completely. I would say yes, the bars would be open.
Oh, in Canada, yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's the point of Canada, right? Yeah. Oh wow, look at that. But you know what I'm saying? Like that was like you're not giving the audience like in and to me that's like a failure of world building, which I'm a big fan of world building, and then I've been coming down on myself for concentrating on world building at the extent of characterization. So like, you know, the big thing everybody's been talking about with Eric July, I saw him open 2 weeks ago from when, you know, like I guess I don't even understand the point but the point that I'm making is like this, I don't even know the words. I was reading the action. I was reading the character's movement from panel to panel, and while you just took me into a middle of a story, I was trying to figure it out, and I never felt lost, I guess is the point that I'm trying to make. Sometimes RJ is better at articulating my thoughts than me. Am I making any sense?
You're making a whole lot of sense. I always think of it in these terms. I'm not very good with language. I'm not very good with words, and even English, because my first language is sequential art, because that's how I learned. Quite honestly, comic books were always there for me. Comic books were always in front of my face from the time I can remember. Any time I can remember, and really, sequential art was my first language that I learned.
We have a question for you, Nick. I don't know if you can see it. Where?
Oh no.
Nick asks, what's your favorite fiction genre or world building? What is your favorite? Do you have a favorite? Oh, geez, I can't even talk. Too much coffee. Do you have a favorite fiction genre or world building? So, what is your favorite genre?
Fantasy.
Fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love obviously like superheroes and all that too, but yeah, like fantasy really is my first love. I mean, I played D&D. I think I might have told the story in someone else's stream, but like when I was, I think 7 or 8 years old, maybe younger, I don't know. I just happened to be in the closet looking around, just rummaging around. All of a sudden I found the old original D&D red box.
Yeah, you told that on my channel. Yeah.
I don't know why my dad had this thing. He never played it, and I found it, and I stole it from the closet. And I hid it in my room, and I would just go over these books. And the books, I think, were
you've been
printed
in the closet ever since, right?
Totally in the closet. Never left. But yeah, it just like this thing rocked me. Really, yeah. I don't know how else to say it. Just completely rocked me, and I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know. I just saw these dice. I saw that, you know, the artwork. The books were, I think they weren't black and white. I think they were like blue and
they were blue, black, and gold. Like they had a very
it was
palette. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
You know,
and made them look more important.
Oh well, yeah. It made it look I don't know,
like official or something. You know,
ancient, or, you know, I don't know. It's just weird. Like it hit me. It hit me hard. There was like a couple of other things that I can remember too. There was a book my mom had. It was a fantasy book by, is it Piers Anthony? Is that oh shoot, I can't think of the title of it. It had this sort of young guy on the back of what looked like an ostrich, and he had a snake, a winged snake. I can't think of the title. I've got the book because I've got about 500 fantasy novels
Are you thinking the Petal Throne?
No, that's not it. I can't think of it. But I remember just like looking. It was a painted cover on this novel, and I just would look at it. I would stare at it, and I would stare at it and stare at it. The other thing that when I lived in Calgary, we didn't really have, you know, any money. My mom. My mom and dad split up, and so I'm living with my mom at the time, and I end up going to this place. I hear about this place called Sentry Box, and someone tells me that, oh, that's where all the role-playing stuff is. I'm like, what? Well, it's 32 city blocks away from me, and I don't have money for like bus fare or anything like that. So I just basically say, okay, all the streets and avenues are numbered. I'm just going to start walking And it took me forever. And yes, it was, uphill both ways. And when I got there, it was like a pilgrimage. I walk in and it was this glorious place of just role playing. It didn't have any comics or anything. It was fully role playing. Oh my gosh, the figurines, the games, like everything. And this was like early.
Red figures, right? Yeah.
Oh, it was and I would just sit there and look at the books and the covers painted by, easily and like all these old, like even like Frazetta, whatever. And I just look at them, and what I would do is I would try to commit them to memory. So I've got a fairly good sort of like, because I would have to walk home. I didn't have the money to buy any of this stuff. So the only thing I could do was look at it and take it with me.
Orphan just shows up at the door.
Totally. Please, sir, may I have more?
Dip my fingers in the paints and I'll go home and
but because we didn't have any money for, that meant that all I could take with me is what I could remember. And so I tried to remember everything when I went there, and I would go there as often as I could. I would just walk there. Like I said, my parents didn't really care where I was, so I would just walk there, and I would spend hours and hours and hours there. So fantasy is definitely my number one genre. Like my personal project, the one eventually when I finish up with RJ, and I think RJ might want me to do something else. I don't know. My own crowdfunder, if that ever comes to be, it would be a fantasy project. That's what I'm working on.
Cool.
My site, nickaxe.com, I'm already laying out like how I plan on rolling that out for people and having sort of like a walled garden where people can, sign up and see all the making of material and videos. And I'm going to start doing a little bit of like a sort of a journaling on my thought process and sort of, all my years of working in animation as well, and storytelling and dealing with scripts and dealing with storyboards and directing.
Did you get to play D&D with your friends?
Eventually, yes. And I was always the DM, always. Yeah, I know. I had tremendous fun role playing, playing D&D. I played a little bit of Marvel. Like I think that's the game that you love, right? Is the
Villains of Vigilantes is the game that
that which one's that one again? Is that
Jeff D. It's by Fantasy Games Unlimited. They also
that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
I remember correctly. RJ never played Dungeons and Dragons. He was like he had to get on his back, and his brothers played on his back. They rolled the dice. They wouldn't let him play. He was actually
we shared a room, so I got to listen to every last session they had, but I wasn't allowed to play.
That is so mean. That is. I can understand not being able to buy stuff because you don't have the money, but your brothers sit in the corner. You can't even get to be the halfling.
But that was I did play a lot of D&D, tons of
I
it.
think it's funny that I wonder like how many people who are DMs later on want to make their own comic as opposed to people who are just players. Like anybody in the chat, people, if you're making your own comics, were you DMs or were you players? I wonder.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all. We played so much that sometimes when we'd be like, out, I'd be out with my cousin and we would be playing, like we'd be at a mall or something like that, or wherever we'd be, and waiting for the bus, and we'd just start playing. We didn't have any dice, and it was like, okay, it's a 10-sided die, and I would say, all right, I'm thinking of a number. It's a 10-sided die, go. And he would pick a number, and however close he was. Pardon me?
You invented LARPing.
Oh yeah, no, we didn't LARP, but yeah, no, just to roll of the dice. But anyway, yeah, like I loved it. I loved anything fantasy. Like I said, I got over 500 or 600 fantasy novels. I've got tons of stuff. Yeah, no, absolutely. I love fantasy.
My buddies and I, we'd go camping upstate. My father and they were friends with a group of other adults, and we would all go camping together. My friend Mike, who's one of my first childhood friends, we were upstate New York, and if you know anything about upstate, you go in the woods and there'd be like rock outcroppings, and we would like memorize these locations and thinking like, what if there was orcs around this rock, and then he would like climb up and jump down, and like, so when we started playing, like we started doing that when we were 10 or so. So now we're like 12 years old and we're remembering these rock. It added like a dimension of role playing that made it like scarier. Like we would remember being, because we were New Yorker kids, and now we had like, after weeks in the woods thinking about how dark it got, and then an orc would attack you in the dark, we would scare the crap out of each other. Which is showing us.
This, let me just switch back here. So,
that's
Siegfried.
Terrifying. Oh, in the book, okay.
Siegfried is this fantastically beautiful hardcover from Europe, and this was like, if I was to do anything, it would be something along these lines. So this is like, oops.
Wow. My book's successful. I would like to, do my heroic tales, and I also have a mythological story that I would like to tell too, like a graphic novel.
So this book for me is really what I would want to do. I find this
is beautiful.
Absolutely beautiful. The storytelling is top notch. You're like, this is a thing for me, is like, I look at North American comics and I look at manga all the time. Love it all. I love it all. But there are certain European artists that, I don't know, they have a blend of both.
Yes, this
and it's just, for me, absolutely unbelievable just seeing some of what they're able to do in 60 pages.
Yeah, this is glorious. Yeah.
It's just,
I'm a sucker for Norse mythology, so this reminds me of like a nice blend of like you said, manga and American comics with P. Craig Russell thrown in there. One of my favorite comic book artists. Yeah,
and all this is traditional. Like, this is watercolor. And so my hope is that the fantasy book that I'm working on is this is going to be the benchmark, is basically nice. Following in these footsteps here. There's another one that I absolutely love as well. Do I have it? Oh, I can just pull up this one. This is a different book but love this stuff.
Yeah, I've been following Chuck Dixon, and he does like a Ask Chuck Dixon every Wednesday, and then he follows it up with What You're Reading. Mm-hmm. I got to stop watching that because that's costing me like money every week. The hardcover European editions of comics that I never heard of, and they're just so beautiful. Which site is this or is this yours?
Site? No, this is like
this is PDFs that you bought.
No, these what you're looking at here.
Yeah,
these are all like pirated books. A lot of which I own, but I mean I have it as reference.
Oh wow, these are glorious. Yeah, well, let me know when you're doing this. This looks great. Yeah, I do wonder if the European model of like a creator like putting out an oversized glorious book once a year might be the way to go,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's when I'm drawing these pages for RJ and such, that's sort of the what I'm reaching for. I don't usually get it, but I keep reaching nonetheless. And
you don't get what you don't reach for, and if you don't reach, you don't get anything.
Yeah, for sure.
We've been going for an hour now, and I did an hour before this, so my voice is killing me. So anything anybody want to say, RJ?
No, I just want to say thank you very much for having both me and Nick on here, because every time I talk to Nick, it's a pleasure, because especially when he gets to show his art.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
That's glorious. I mean, anybody who's watching that and is not interested and excited about your comic, I don't know what to tell them. That looks amazing. You know,
Thanks. That's what I'm going for. It doesn't get tired. I don't get tired hearing that. Yeah, that's what I'm working for.
yeah.
It's that kind of response, that kind of excitement, for sure.
So here we go. You know, this is back Crom the Destroyer. It's on Indiegogo. You said there's going to be an oversized magazine format and then a regular size comic format.
Yep. The oversized magazine format is black and white, and the graphic novel format is just normal comic sized and colored.
Wow, because you don't want to make because you can't be easy, RJ. You gotta put up 2 files and different formats just to give yourself more work, right?
Yeah, really.
But thanks a lot, guys. And next week we'll be on RJ's channel and for Comic Book Team Up. Right?
Cool.
Right.
Awesome.
Yes. No, we have Adam Miller next week with his Iron Age Icons, which is opening next week.
Right. Are we gonna launch it on Comic Book Team Up?
No, he's launching on the Friday and ours is on the Wednesday. So I told him we go as close to his launch date as possible. See if we could get him some more eyes on his project, because he's also a spectacular artist.
Okay, cool. And I'm trying to find nickx.com, but I'll just say it, nickx.com.
Yep.
We could find all of Nick's work and keep your eyes posted for his. I'm excited now. Some glorious mythological fantasy book. That sounds amazing. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, thanks everybody. I can't even talk anymore. I just developed a Canadian accent. Thanks everybody. Bye bye.